This could be huge.
I'm interrupting myself from the future. I'm trying to edit, and sometimes with these ideas you don't know exactly until you put the imagery together, but I'm doing the overlay of the concept art with the creature or the image on the trailer, and they are lining up perfectly. In fact, they look almost identical, and it's suddenly clicking to me that we can now get a pretty good understanding as to why the Hylians have long ears. So, I don't know, crazy theory, or is it just me, or do they actually line up really well? And if you actually adjust the brightness in the background and sort of match the color, it's almost like what looks like Zelda turns into a deity. It's really, really weird and creepy, but kind of cool. Yeah, let me know what you think. Enjoy. Okay, dragons, huh? If you watched the last video, the 3 secrets you don't know, you might recall the last secret was dragons everywhere. I mentioned the connection to the sages and the path that leads right out from the desert colossi to the Leviathan location and a place called Dragon's Exile. It's not a coincidence, and while I'm on the point, is anyone else looking at Breath of the Wild's tapestry and noticing that Calamity Ganon, or what we're told is Calamity Ganon, looks like a dragon? I'm thinking that isn't just a stylistic choice. Hello there, thanks for watching. My name's GameSmiths, and let's just crack into it because I'm definitely late to the party. And there's a lot to cover based on my observations and severely avoiding other influences, so hopefully this pays off. I'm going to start somewhere a little different. The point where Link busts open the slab doors and runs out with a smooth 60 frames per second animation that in no way makes me think we are delaying for new hardware. Fans have been quick to pick up the vial-like items Link is carrying on his belt as he whips out of the temple and plunges out in a demonstration of the new falling mechanics that were painted last year. Again, a lot of speculation has surrounded these items, but we need look no further than the concept art for an explanation. Here they are referred to as vials of ancient energy, providing what appears to be a fuel of sorts for the Sheikah Slave. Now, knowing that instead Link's modified arm is going to play a similar role for the sequel, we can readily guess that this green spirit energy will likely perform the same role, but more directly powering the item as seen in the initial trailers. But for what purpose, you might ask? Well, besides the extension of liquid traversal that was seen in the second trailer, it's fair to say that this spirit energy, which I believe is representative of the light force in Hyrule, will be vital as a means of opposing the corrupting influence of Malice, acting to cleanse the lands and open up new areas with the aim of repairing the Master Sword, but also the fragmented kingdom torn asunder in the chaos of Ganon's awakening. The whole introductory sequence gives major tapestry vibes to me. Again, we have the same stylization of events summarized in a visualization that simultaneously provides exposition to the story whilst alluding to a larger mystery yet to unfold. I've not heard this mentioned yet, but I'm sure I'm not the only one to notice it. The creature depicted in the opening scene has an eclectic mix of iconic symbolism. The wide open eyes likened to those spirit creatures in Breath of the Wild such as Bloopies and the Lord of the Mountain. The overall aesthetic is similar in appearance to that of an owl, a recurring theme from Kapora Gaboring in Ocarina of Time, to the owl statues in Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess, and more recently in Breath of the Wild. The owl is connected to the Sage of Light Rauru and more holistically to wisdom and knowledge. Considering the depiction of the 3 triangle-shaped lashes under the eyes, which are features of the iconic Sheikah Eye symbol, the correlations to knowledge and wisdom as one of the 3 main elements of the Triforce is hard to deny. The eye is open wide to seek the truth, while the teardrop represents the willingness of the tribe to go to any lengths to achieve a goal and features throughout the series, from Gossip Stones to the Lens of Truth, and even on Time Shift Stones. Princess Zelda also disguises herself as Sheik in Ocarina of Time, reinforcing the connection with the royal family, and the depiction of the same symbol on her robe in Twilight Princess continues this tradition. Lastly, the ornate features bordering the figure correlate to a design pattern that connects both Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild. In Twilight Princess, the fused shadow features this squarish swirl pattern at each horn on this powerful relic that coincidentally depicts twin serpents crossing near the wide open eyes, a symbol so significant to the new game that it features in the design of the title logo. This square-like swirl can also be seen amongst the Zonai ruins like Sargon Bridge in the Farum region, and is by design connected with the Zonai tribe, Concept art in creating a champion explains how the choice of creatures such as the owl, boar and dragon are direct representations of the elements of the Triforce, with huge statues marking the region and other pockets of Hyrule. In-game text suggests that the tribe worship the dragon deity, and their greater structure can be found protecting the Spring of Courage, an aspect of the Triforce commonly associated with the spirit of the hero, the colour green. Interestingly, altars of offerings can also be observed in front of the owl statues, suggesting offerings were made in reverence to this deity as well. Finally, the concept art shows serpent-like towers reaching high into the sky, with a platform-like surface in the middle. A structure not seen in Breath of the Wild, but almost certainly linked to the sequel, considering the delay announcement trailer, and what I believe to be a stylized depiction of the same structure beneath the creature in focus here. The next main shots are of the moblins and bokoblins seemingly charging headlong into a battle with an army of sorts to oppose them. Now, I've noticed here that the supposed soldiers are not all the same. For example, one line appears to be possibly Hylian in origin with longer ears and an almost dress-like attire, whilst others feature shorter length robes and different features for their faces. Now, while it's clear that Malice is shifting along with the Horde, I wonder if this event is reflecting a past calamity or one yet to unfold in the sequel. Potentially both. I've recently done a theory on Malice and the role I think it will play in the sequel, and the manner in which it seems to have grown exponentially in the initial trailers and confirmed in the way it's pouring out of Death Mountain here, makes me think that this is less of a battle than it is a last stand of those inhabiting Hyrule against a cataclysm of Malice incarnate as it swallows the kingdom. Now, seeing as how Malice in Breath of the Wild had evolved and was able to repurpose Sheikah tech and elements around it, could it be possible that the consumption of the hapless remnants of the kingdom forms a larger explanation as to the creation of the demon tribe, and their seemingly endless reincarnation when killed thanks to the Blood Moon? If Malice was to engulf and corrupt the wide expanse of Hyrule in the way I believe it's possible, Tears of the Kingdom may in some part be referencing what will be the darkest incarnation of Hyrule to date, with an event that will make the calamity seem like a glimpse of what true devastation will bring. Moving on, we have these 7 orb-like structures surrounding the character central to the carvings. They look like tears as well, but 7 is a recurring number in the franchise representing the sages, protectors of Hyrule and the Triforce. An interesting fact to note is that often it is Zelda who takes the position as the 7th sage, which would suggest the creature we see in the image is something else entirely. In another video I did recently, I covered the mystery surrounding the 7 heroine statues found in the Gerudo region of Breath of the Wild, which showcase Gerudo scripture all but confirming their connection to the sages. Now, what's more interesting though is the mystery surrounding the 8th heroine, or hero as the translation suggests, and considering the character at the centre of this image is surrounded by the 7 symbols, it is more than possible they represent the mysterious 8th hero. In the video, I make a prediction that the 8th hero has a strong connection to the sequel, and note that the forgotten sword associated with the mystery is foreshadowing the fate of the Master Sword, now confirmed to be halved in size thanks to the tendrils of Malice consuming not only the sword, but Link's arm as well. If this was indeed the 8th hero, perhaps the scriptures carved into this forgotten Goliath represent a Twilight connection, in that they are a mirror reflection of the other sages. There's speculation abound as to who the figure bent back over might refer to, as well as the figure standing with long hair, but I'm inclined to think they may be one and the same, or related in some way. For example, Zelda and her mother. Both figures feature the Sheikah markings, and the somber tones providing the score to this scene provides connotations of dark rituals or sorcery, not unlike the altar-type position we see Ganon enduring in the first sequel trailer. The Sheikah markings under the eye, combined with the arms cupped in a symbolic gesture of union, appear connected to the same individual featured in the beginning of the trailer, and it wouldn't surprise me, based on what we can see with the kingdom under threat, that a heavy price was paid in securing an element of divine intervention. This statement is purely speculative of course, but the object on the right just reminds me so much of Demise's long kimono. Concept art can be found in creating a champion that shows Zelda thrown back in a similar position, but what is far more interesting is the portrayal of Zelda standing exactly how the main character of this scene does, with arms out and a headpiece adorning a circular object. Again, similar to what we see in this trailer. By no means are they identical in all facets, but in striking the same pose I'd predict that they may be one and the same. Pure speculation again at this stage, but I believe we are seeing Hylia herself and the union of Hylia the deity with the mortal form of a chosen Sheikah protector, the origin of the divine blood that runs through the royal family and, in particular, the princess named Zelda. And to support this speculation, let's start with the fact that the Sheikah have long been protectors of the royal family and representing the interests of Hylia from as far back as the lore extends. Zelda has donned the pseudonym of Sheik in Ocarina of Time and wears the symbol proudly in Twilight Princess, but to further support the theory, I'd like to highlight the marking behind the images, forming rays of light cascading out from the central edifice. Where we have seen Demise in Skyward Sword, we've never truly seen Hylia, aside from her likeness in statuettes or illustrations, with one more direct example, and that's the exposition piece in Skyward Sword. This cutscene tells the story of an ancient Hylia in her confrontation with Demise, prior to the moment she sent the remains of the Hylian population to the skies, where the cloud barrier and guardian deities like Levias would offer protection from the hordes of the demon tribe. The scene shows an artistic representation of Hylia with the goddess sword and harp, surrounded by her followers as they stand against Demise. As the scene unfolds, a cascade of light beams out from above Hylia, forming the foundations of light energy itself, that being the golden relic of the Triforce. This bright sun-like image features elsewhere too. In Wind Waker, it can be seen rising above the Triforce in the stained glass windows depicting the sages in Ganon. The same sun motif also shines down on the hero in the opening cutscene, and again, visually representing the gods for the Hylians who pray for divine intervention in a world besieged by Ganon in the adult timeline. Concept art in creating a champion shows another example, with dungeon-like structures steeped in golden hues, now synonymous with the Sky Islands. It's quite possible we could be witnessing early designs of the interiors to these new temple-shaped buildings nestled high amongst the clouds, hinting at challenges to come. We can see the same imagery, that of a shining sun adorning the tiara-like headpiece worn by Zelda in the concept art too. From the beams of white light breaching the screen when Link pushes open those massive doors, to the light featured prominently in the hero shot for the game cover, I have absolutely no doubt that this depicts the opposing forces of light and dark, represented by the forces of the Triforce, with the fate of Hyrule in the balance. I suspect this has come up already, but when we talk about Tears of the Kingdom, we can't help but think of the collection of the spirit energy, and all of this seems reminiscent of something we've seen before in Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess. Skyward Sword sees Link traverse the dangers of the Silent Realm to collect the tears of each deity, indicative of a similar cleansing ritual and critical to healing the respecting areas of the world, as well as acting to represent his growth in courage and directly contributing to forging the Master Sword, and enabling Link to achieve a balance of the virtues required to make a wish on the Triforce. Similar execution of the same narrative is played out in Twilight Princess, albeit modified to represent the light spirits of each region, beings who actively intervened on behalf of the Golden Goddesses by sealing the magical powers of the interlopers in the fused shadow mentioned earlier, culminating in their banishment to the Twilight Realm, where they would evolve to become the Twilight. In both cases, Link uses an updated version of the classic glass bottle, known as the Spirit Vessel, to house the tears he seeks out, housed in an alternate dimension of the same plane of existence, albeit the Silent Realm or the Twilight Realm in their respective titles. One misconception that's been doing the rounds relates to the logo and the circular Uroboros symbology finding its origins in Greek mythology. Now, I love the Greeks, but this symbol goes all the way back to Egyptian culture and appeared in the shrine of Tutankhamun or King Tut all the way back in 13th century BC Egypt. And since then, it has featured in many cultures. In fact, my initial impression was it representing Jumangunda, and I hope I got the pronunciation right, but basically it's known as the Midgard serpent and is one of Loki's children taken by Odin and thrown into the ocean where it grew large enough to encircle the world and eventually play a massive role in tales of Thor and Ragnarok. Similar representation can be seen in Indian and Hindu texts, as well as the imagery being instantly recognisable to most cultures around the world, in the way that it represents the cyclical nature of life and death, rebirth, sunrise and sunset, and to a degree, the yin and yang of opposing forces. It makes sense in how it reflects the themes of the game, which look to tackle a Hyrule ravaged by Malice, dark force, requiring the player to summon their courage and seek out the light, and cleanse the world around them. There is of course another interpretation of the Uroboros, which is represented in the concept of eternity, an endless return sought by the ancient alchemists. And in their endeavours they sought the unity of time's beginning and end, and it is understood that on the papyrus in a double ring appears a complete maxim, translated to mean one is all, and by it all, and for it all, and if it does not contain all, then all is nothing. I found this translation to be quite interesting and wonder if there's a connection of sorts to the glyphs we see sitting either side of the protagonist that everyone would like to decipher, but either way, I think the concept of all being in entirety and with respect to a complete whole, there's sort of a correlation there between the symbology in the logo and the events we'll likely see playing out in Tears of the Kingdom. It's subjective, of course, but the recurring themes found in Breath of the Wild that correlate to previous titles, and the striking connections to Skyward Sword, and key decisions that have ultimately led to this fractured reality, composed of elements collected from the timelines of the past, I think we will see a seeking of a unification of sorts and a completion of the whole, whether that be in the darkness of a calamitous end, or in the light of a world reborn in sacrifice. Lastly, I want to propose an idea that is purely speculative, but I think there's more evidence to support it than we realise. See, what if an action or decision in the past, maybe one by the king or royal family, was done with such malice that it corrupted the very bloodline of the royal descendants, and culminated in the struggles we saw Zelda go through in Breath of the Wild in unlocking her power? Imagine a jealous king or jealous father, so consumed by fear of a rising technology in the Sheikah, or maybe the love of his daughter that defied the traditions of nobility, that led the king to make a terrible mistake. One so bad that he banished the Sheikah from his kingdom, earning the hatred of the Splinter Yiga factions, and more so empowering the growth of malice beneath the surface by breaking the divine connection between Hylia and the bloodline. An event so tragic that love lost would bring the tears of the kingdom, the heartbreak of family and loyalty, father and daughter, and a people to their king. If this was the case, the sheer love of Zelda for Link in the crucial moments of Breath of the Wild may have been the spark needed to reconnect with Hylia, and ultimately the light within herself. Now, should this princess, who has already sacrificed so much, now be at the mercy of malice or the embodiment of darkness, thought to be lost in the depths of despair? Well, I could see the loss of their princess in the onslaught of malice as the moment that hope would be all but extinguished, and the last tears would fall on a kingdom doomed to eternal darkness. As the player and controlling Link revived with a new appendage to tackle the kingdom lost and turn back time to save those whom he lost and loved, Tears of the Kingdom could bring about a truly epic and engaging storyline unmatched by any game to date. And we can only dream. Thanks for watching. Lock in the date. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is on its way, and I can't wait. Thanks for being amazing, and see you again soon here on GameSmiths.